Well, the war over who might succeed Ben Bernanke is heating up. Janet Yellen, Larry Summers, or our next guest, who has another suggestion for Fed Chair, Chuck Norris. That's right. He's saying the Fed needs more structure, discipline, and a target-based strategy. All characteristics, found in that guy. Joining us now from Copenhagen is Danske Bank Chief Analyst Lars Christensen. Lars, it's great to have you on the program. Good morning. Lars, I wanted to just ask you, so explain to people what you mean here, which is that quite literally, if the Fed were run the way that you see it, anyone could be chairman.
Exactly. My point is that we have far too much focus on who should run this institution rather on what should the institution be about, what rules should it follow, what should it target. If there was a very clear target for the Fed to target, for example, as I have suggested, nominal GDP, then it would be very clear. It wouldn't really matter who would be Fed chairman. It would be, as Milton Friedman suggested, there should be a robot or a computer running the Federal Reserve. We should define very clear rules for what we want to achieve, and then more or less let the market decide on monetary policy. Actually, that used to be the case during the Great Moderation. The years of stability during the late 90s and early part of the 2000s was really a period where monetary policy was very rule-based. The market knew what the Fed was going to do, and in that sense the market determined Fed policy. The Fed actually just followed the signals from the markets. So I suggest that is what we should do, and I simplify that by having the Chuck Norris effect.
Right,
that the market determines monetary policy after the rule is defined.
Well, and Lars, we should explain to people as well that when the Fed's talking about changing forward guidance or the targets on the unemployment rate, it is effectively doing that. In other words, trying to sort of depersonalize the Fed and make it more rules-based. But the argument against what you're talking about is that economies evolve. Things change, circumstances change. So we wouldn't necessarily have known 10 years ago some of the broader barometers, maybe with regard to financial stability or the labor force participation rate, that should be taken into account or become more important today. So you can never entirely remove the human element of this, can you?
Well, I'm not sure about whether you can remove the human element. My point is, however, we should try to move away from discretion. The Great Recession we have lived through over the last 5 years has been characterized by an enormous amount of central bank discretion. The Federal Reserve, since the onset of the crisis, being one way or the other, and now we are talking about one candidate, Larry Summers, who says he would never like to follow rules. He would like to run from one crisis to another and be a firefighter. I would suggest that instead we put out some rules, we try to follow them. Robert Hetzel, who is a Richmond Fed economist, have called this lean against the wind with credibility. And this is what the Fed actually used to have prior to the crisis. We lost that during the Great Recession because we lost track of what we were really targeting and with what instruments. We need simplicity in the instruments and clarity in the targets.
And for people who want to read more about that, about what we could do to leverage private prediction markets to some extent to develop these rules, you can read more about it on Lars's blog, Market Monitors. And we really thank you, Lars, on this Friday afternoon for joining us.